What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. As always, my name is Orlando Martel and this is Martel Dynamics. I've been gone for a while, a lot of work, a lot of stuff going on, but I'm back. Now that I'm back, I just want to say, instead of just reading the chapter in real time as I record, from now on I will read the chapter before recording and just tell you what I thought about my notes, how I reacted and everything. So in the last chapter, chapter 9, that was titled by the Prancing Pony or something like that, the main thing was that Frodo fell, the accident happened, he slipped the ring on, everyone was scared and weirded out, but at the same time they didn't know what had happened, and people left really quick. And there was this mysterious character named Strider, right? So in this chapter 10, is all about Strider and they talking to him. Frodo, Pippin, and Sam were making their way back to the room when they found Strider sitting kind of creepily in a corner of the room. He was already waiting for them there, because you remember that Strider and the owner of the hotel, they both asked Frodo for a time in private so they could talk to him, right? So when they got to the room, Strider was already there. So they begin to talk, and he's saying that he has some information for them, but that he has a prize, or he wants a prize or something. And at this moment, I'm like, look, if you want to help, that's fine, but why would you want a prize? At that moment, I wouldn't trust him anymore, because if you want to help, then help without asking for something in return. But he's asking for something in return. He's saying that his prize is that, quote, "You must take me along with you until I wish to leave you." It's not a bad ask. I mean, he's not asking for money, but at the same time, it's weird. We don't know you. You already want to come with us? Strider explains that all they did in Tom Bombadil's house till they came and walked to the hotel was obvious. He even told them that he heard them when they told Tom Bombadil that Frodo's new name would be Mr. Underhill. And if Strider is saying that, if he heard that, if he noticed everything that happened from Tom's house to the hotel, then others could have heard and seen them as well. He's telling them, like, look, I'm just saying, you guys need to be more careful. And I mean, that's till this point, Strider is being reasonable. I mean, my suspicion is that he's some kind of wizard like Gandalf. Again, I don't know what he is. I don't trust him at this point in the story. Strider says that the accident with the ring in the last chapter gave him away to a lot of people with big mouth, snitches, tattletales, whatever. In the way Strider is talking, he's trying to give them hints that he knows what they are about, that he knows about the ring, that he knows everything, but he's not saying it explicitly. So it's very weird. It's like when someone's trying to get information out of you and they tell you, like, I don't know what happened, and they tell you, and then they ask you if you know, and then the other person tells you, yeah, tell me first and then I'll tell you if I knew it or not. It's an old trick. You know what I mean? So that's how Strider is acting, in my opinion. He's not explaining himself a lot. He's not being trustable in that sense. He's not opening himself, but he wants the others to open up to him. That's not how it works. So everyone, including Frodo and Sam, just are, they don't trust him. They are just, yes, they are listening to him, but they don't trust him. I'm gonna read to you something they said and something that Sam says that I agree with. The hobbits looked at him and saw with surprise that his face was drawn as if with pain. His hands clenched the arms of his chair. The room was very quiet and still, and the light seemed to have grown dim. For a while he sat with unseeing eyes, as if walking in distant memory or listening to sounds in the night far away. "There," he cried for a moment, drawing his hand across his brow. "Perhaps I know more about these pursuers than you do. You fear them, but you do not fear them enough yet. Tomorrow you will have to escape if you can. Strider can take you by paths that are seldom trodden. Will you have him? Which, by the way, it's weird that he's talking in third person. It's like, why? What's the point? Because there probably is, but I don't remember any other character talking in third person. Maybe Bilbo, but I don't remember that much. So there was a heavy silence. Frodo made no answer. His mind was confused with doubt and fear. Sam frowned and looked at his master, and at last he broke out. Will you leave, Mr. Frodo? I say no. This Strider here, he warns and he says take care. And I say yes to that, and let's begin with him. He comes out of the wild, and I've never heard no good of such folk. He knows something, that's plain, more than I like, but it's no reason why we should let him go leading us out into some dark place far from help, as he puts it. At this point, I just literally wrote here, it's reasonable. It's reasonable what Sam's saying because we don't know who this guy is. I mean, we just met him sitting kind of creepily and just lonesome in some table in the Prancing Pony in a hotel we've never heard about before, and it's just the first time. How should we trust Strider all of a sudden? So at this point I'm thinking, look, Frodo has a point. I don't trust the guy. Maybe he's a wizard, but he's not giving as much information so we can... I mean, as much as I talk about Gandalf, Gandalf is really, really smart and manipulative in a good sense. Because Gandalf made you trust him, you know, and not, again, not in a bad way, but he opened up himself expecting that you would open yourself back to him. Strider's not doing that. And again, I don't know if he's a wizard, but just saying. Everything is tense. I mean, they don't know what to do. They know that they are in danger, but what should they do? So to break this tension, at that moment, there came a knock at the door. Mr. Butterbur had arrived with candles, and behind him was Nob with cans of hot water. Strider withdrew into a dark corner. Yo, at this point, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Because I'm not trusting Strider. When Mr. Butterbur came all of a sudden to the door, I remember that he told Bilbo he wanted to talk to him. But at this point, I don't trust Mr. Butterbur. I don't trust him either. I mean, for all I know, he can be in some kind of shady deal with dark figures. And then Strider withdrew to a dark corner, so they don't trust each other. I mean, look, it's weird. It's something sketchy is going on. The owner, right, Mr. Butterbur, comes into the room and says that he allegedly knows Gandalf and that Gandalf left a letter for Frodo. Mr. Butterbur says that Gandalf described Frodo for him, and the description that Mr. Butterbur gives are so general. I'm thinking he's making this up. He's making this up to try and I don't know, manipulate Frodo. I won't give you away, but I was told that this Baggins would be going by the name of Underhill, and I was given a description that fits you well enough, if I may say so. Indeed, let's have it then, says Frodo, unwisely interrupting. A stout little fellow with red cheeks. But this one is taller than some and fairer than most, and he has a cleft in his chin, perky chap with a bright eye. I mean, yes, it has some specific details, but it's very general for me. That could apply to any fucking hobbit. It's weird because at this moment, I trust Strider more than I do Mr. Butterbur. I don't trust neither, but I trust Strider more than this owner of the hotel because everything is weird. It's sketchy. So Mr. Butterbur gave the letter to Frodo. The letter was addressed to Mr. Frodo Baggins, Bagend, Hobbiton in the Shire. So somewhere around this moment, Strider comes out of the shadows, and Mr. Butterbur is scared because everyone thinks of these rangers, as they call this Strider types. They don't trust them. They are weird and whatnot. So they are kind of both fighting for Frodo's trust. And there's a real funny scene for me that I just have to read to you. Mr. Butterbur is telling them that black figures are dangerous, and that's obvious, of course, but he's telling them. And here's the funny scene. "What do you mean?" asked Frodo. "These black men," said the landlord, lowering his voice. "They are looking for Baggins, and if they mean well, then I'm a hobbit. It was on Monday, and all the dogs were yammering and the geese screaming. Uncanny, I called it. Nob, he came and told me that 2 black men were at the door asking for a hobbit called Baggins. Nob's hair was all stood on end. I bid the black fellows be off and slammed the door on them. But they've been asking the same question all the way to Archet, I hear. And that ranger, Strider, he's been asking questions too. Trying to get in here to see you before you had a bite or sup." "He did," said Strider suddenly, coming forward into the light. "And much trouble would have been saved if you had let him in, Barleyman." The landlord jumped with surprise. "You!" he cried. "You're always popping up. What do you want now?" "He's here with my leave," said Frodo. "He came to offer his help." "Well, you know your own business, maybe," said Mr. Butterbur, looking suspiciously at Strider. "But if I was in your plight, I wouldn't take up with a ranger." And here's a part I love. "Then who would you take up with?" asked Strider. "A fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shouted at him all day. They cannot stay in the pony forever, and they cannot go home. They have a long road before them. Will you go with them and keep the black men off?" Look, that part was really funny for me because Strider at this point, I'm trusting Strider a whole lot more. I mean, he's real. He's honest. He's like, "Oh, you don't want to take me? Who they gonna take? Who's gonna lead them? You? A fat innkeeper that doesn't even know his name?" I mean, Strider is calling him fat and dumb. Not being fit for the mission and long walks, and just not being smart enough. Just for this thing, I trust Strider. I mean, I'm trusting him more than I trust Mr. Butterbur. In this mini reunion, they are trying to explain to each other what is happening. Long story short, Strider says that these black riders, they come from Mordor, said Strider in a low voice. "From Mordor, Barleyman, if that means anything to you." And Mr. Butterbur says, "Save us!" cried Mr. Butterbur, turning pale. The name evidently was known to him. "This is the worst news that has come to Bree in my time." So after a lot of discussion, they finally get to the supposedly letter to the whatever that Gandalf left, right? I'm gonna read you the letter because anything that Gandalf says at this point is very good. "The Prancing Pony, Bree. Mid-Year's Day, Shire Year 1418. Dear Frodo, bad news has reached me here. I must go off at once. You had better leave Baggin soon and get out of the Shire before the end of July at the latest. I will return as soon as I can, and I will follow you if I find that you are gone. Leave a message for me here if you pass through Bree. You can trust the landlord, Butterbur. You may meet a friend of mine on the road, a man, lean, dark, tall, by some called Strider. He knows our business and will help you. Make for Rivendell. There I hope we may meet again. If I do not come, Elrond will advise you. Yours in haste, Gandalf." And there's this little, I'll show you later. "P.S. Do not use it again. Not for any reason whatsoever. Do not travel by night." I mean, it's like Gandalf knows Frodo's thoughts before even Frodo knows them. Gandalf knew that Frodo would use the ring. Gandalf knew that they were probably either traveling at night or were thinking hard about it. It is at these moments that I like Gandalf very much. You've known my relationship with Gandalf if you've seen my previous videos. But at this point, he's looking really wise. "P.P.S. Make sure that it is the real Strider. There are many strange men on the roads. His true name is Aragorn." And then he kind of includes extract of a poem. It says, "All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadows shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. P.P.P.S. I hope Butterbur sent this promptly. A worthy man, but his memory is like a lumber room. Thing wanted, always buried. If he forgets, I shall roast him. Farewell. And now again he makes his symbol, I guess. He made it multiple times. I don't know if you can see real well. He made it multiple times throughout the letter, but here's like the last one. With this letter, of course, I trust Gandalf more than anyone else at this point. Strider and Mr. Butterbur are both to be trusted. So now that we are trusting Strider, Strider is telling them how he will basically take charge of the mission. What will they do on the next day? You know, they are making plans. When all of a sudden they notice Mary is not there. I mean, Mary hadn't come back. We haven't seen Mary since I think the beginning of the last chapter. He went outside for a walk or something like that. We haven't seen him for a while. I mean, Mary didn't see the accident. Mary didn't see anything that happened in the bar. When all of a sudden, at that moment, they heard a door slam. Then feet came running along the passage. Mary came in with a rush, followed by Nom. He shut the door hastily and leaned against it. He was out of breath. They stared at him in alarm for a moment before he gasped. "I've seen them, Frodo! I've seen them! Black Riders!" "Black Riders?" cried Frodo. "Where?" "Here, in the village. I stayed indoors for an hour. Then as you did not come back, I went out for a stroll. I had come back again and was standing just outside the light of the lamp, looking at the stars. Suddenly, I shivered and felt that something horrible was creeping near. There was a sort of deeper shade among the shadows across the road, just beyond the edge of the lamplight. It slid away at once into the dark without a sound. There was no horse." "Which way did it go?" asked Strider suddenly and sharply. Mary started, noticing the stranger for the first time. "Go on," said Frodo. "This is a friend of Gandalf's. I will explain later." "It seemed to make off up the road, eastward," continued Mary. "I tried to follow. Of course, it vanished almost at once. But I went round the corner and on as far as the last house on the road." So Strider looked at Mary with wonder. "You have a stout heart," he said, but it was foolish. Strider, being as strategic as he seems to be, he made like disguises in the rooms where they were all supposed to be divided into, you know, like as if they were sleeping and shit. And he told them that they would all sleep in the same room. So if anything happened, if the hotel was invaded that same night, you know, Strider could do something to protect them and help them. Strider says that the black things won't probably attack the hotel. They don't like to withdraw that much of attention unless some high percentage of the people staying in the hotel and on the vicinity is on with them, but probably won't happen. The point is that they sleep in the same room, and with that, the chapter ends. It's weird for me because we're almost at the half of the book. I mean, we're not half, but almost half. And I feel the story is just literally beginning. That was this chapter, Strider. The next chapter is chapter 11, A Knife in the Dark. Let's see if you can see it there. I'll try to keep reading as fast as I can with this format. So with that in mind, guys, I'll just see you in the next chapter. Bye.